Hi, my friends. Welcome to the Grow There with Cheria podcast. When I was a little girl, I was painfully shy, would hide behind my youngest sister shy. I just was so afraid of the world. Everything felt intimidating to me. I was always afraid of getting something wrong, doing something wrong. I was just honestly just kind of terrified by everything. And I was also kind of serious. I was a serious little girl. But I started to find joy in creativity. In fact, I used to make my sister do something called Craft Wednesdays. I think it was Craft Wednesdays. Yeah, or no, Craft Saturdays. And I just, I like to make things, and both my parents are very creative, and my dad is super handy. So this one year, it was the second grade. I was going to a new school. So it was October. So it's still fresh to the school, and it's Halloween. We're having this Halloween festival at night, and we're all coming back to school in our costumes. And the theme was space. And so my dad and I had worked on this costume, and my dad worked really hard in this costume because my dad's also a perfectionist, which is where I get it from. I'm sorry, I'm a recovering perfectionist. Thank you very much. But my dad had been working on this costume. I've been working with him, and it was so ingenuitive. It was like essentially a cardboard box that we spray painted silver, but he had taken some scraps out of his garage and put this plastic kind of screen over the front so it looked like a computer, and had drilled holes throughout the box so that it um, made like a little kind of graph with these holes. But then on underneath the box, he strapped to my body a like light fixture that had all these multiple lights, so they would shine through the holes of the box, and had this kind of hat contraption. And I don't know exactly what I was supposed to be, but some kind of out of this world space robot. And I was so excited about the costume. I had so much fun making that costume with my dad and appreciated how much work he had put into it. But then we show up to the school, and I get out, and he puts the box on me, and I walk up and I see everyone else in their costumes, and I don't know, I just freak out. I get super scared, embarrassed. I don't know. I don't even remember why. I just freak out. And in that moment, I mean, I wouldn't have articulated it this way in my second grade brain, but it was like I didn't feel comfortable owning my truth. Like, I was this creative little geeky girl who showed up in a really cool cardboard box, but I wasn't prepared for other people to talk to me about it, to kind of show my art, so to speak. I wasn't prepared for them to compliment it or think it looked terrible. I wasn't prepared. And so I sat under the table. I took the box off, and I sat under one of the tables all night long. One of my friends had to bring me food because I was just paralyzed. And the reason why I tell this story today is because it took me a long time, and still I find myself, even with doing this podcast is a long time coming. It's taken me a long time to really own my certain of my truths, and to live into them and be bold and brave to show up exactly how I want to show up. And our guest today is someone who inspires me so much because he has, from my perspective, from my vantage point, and he might say different, I have seen him show up unapologetically himself from the moment I met him. And it has always inspired me because he has been relentless in pursuing his dreams. And like I said, just when you meet Loren, his energy is unlike anyone else's energy I've ever known. He is such a uniquely beautiful human, and I'm so excited for you to meet him. Loren is a recording artist, and that, gosh, there's so much. If you wanna think about the diversity of what that could mean, like, let me tell you, he's done everything. First of all, he sang his very first solo when he was 3 years old. He's an incredible vocalist. He can do riffs and runs like no one I've ever heard before. He's an incredible pianist. Okay, these are just things that I know, but here are all the other accolades. He has sorry. He has 1.5 million YouTube views. He's been featured on NBC Today. He was a featured soloist with the LA Philharmonic. You can hear him in all kinds of motion pictures like Get Out and Lincoln. He's lent his voice to recording projects for BTS, Little Nas X, Pharrell, the Red Hot Chili Peppers. He's been a supporting sorry, let me back up. He's been a supporting vocalist for Arcade Fire, Deborah Cox, Heather Headley, um, and Andy Grammer. What a fun show. Also, he and this is kind of almost last but not least. Actually, no, there's more, but he is the vocal director for Michael Bublé's background vocalist and his live choirs, which is amazing. And he recently dropped an album. That's really the last but not least. He recently dropped an album, and we're going to talk about that more in the podcast. So I am so excited for you to meet my friend, not just because he's ultra talented, but also because he is one of a kind. So without further ado, let us grow there with Loren Smith. Okay, I have to stop myself. I have to stop myself from squealing like a schoolgirl because I'm so so excited to be with you right now. And there is just nothing that is bringing me more joy than sharing this space with you, Loren. I already said all of your accolades and the bumper of this podcast, so um everyone already knows how much I adore you, but now they're hearing it 2 times. Thank you for being here. How are you?
I am so glad to be here. I am wonderful. Testing 1, 2. Can everybody hear me? Hello? Testing.
This thing on? Um Gosh, this is such an exciting time. By the time this airs, like, it'll little obviously a little bit further out, but your album released last week, and I'm
Yeah,
just so excited for you. Love Against the Clock, go check it out, y'all. It's like it I it's just I heard you saying the other day that you've been doing this for working on it for 4 years. Yeah?
true. True, true. This started during the pandemic. It was in the middle of COVID that I was like, let's start this thing and let's figure out what we want to have happen. And I had some wonderful people that came alongside of me and said, you know what? Let's do this. Let's try it. Let's see what happens. And it's been
Yeah.
a long process, but it's been worth it because I'm proud of the project and I'm so grateful that it's out. And there isn't any part of me that's nervous for people to like hear things. You know, when you put something out, you're like, oh,
Yeah.
and you
Oof.
give the disclaimers. It's like, now before you
Yes.
listen to this, I had
Oh,
horrible gas that day, but it's just easier to be like, we took our time, we did our best, and it feels solid, and I'm so happy, and it's so
yeah.
nice to hear how it's become everybody else's music. It's just been my own, but
Yeah.
to hear how it's taken its own life is wonderful. So I'm excited to be here with you. And can we please take a moment to shine a little light right back on you? Because this is your new endeavor. Congratulations on
Oh.
birthing your new podcast, baby.
Oh my gosh. Thank you. You're so sweet. And I'm just so lucky to have you on here. I think the reason why I jumped straight into, you know, you releasing the album and all the time that it took to birth this thing is I think that so often we don't realize when we see the final result of someone's hard labor, we don't realize just all the blood, sweat, and tears that went into it. And it's not just all the blood, sweat, and tears that went into creating the thing. I talk about this a lot. It's the process of self-actualizing that is so challenging. And it takes time and it's like it's painstaking to go through that process of sharing something of yourself that's so intimate, and I love how you're saying now it's everyone else's. That is what I mean, obviously my professional work is about, grow there. Our whole sphere of work is around propagating and growing these cultures where you're propagating really great values that are driving results. But when you think about it, you just birthed this thing into the world and now you're propagating yourself in the world. And that's such a beautiful thing. So I don't know. I could geek out over it. Um, but you know that we're here to like talk about a story in your life. So we're gonna get to probably lots of things today, but
Yeah.
I, as you know, am well, I keep saying I'm doing this podcast for two reasons. One, I'm just kind of personally obsessed with growth and just have always been someone constantly trying to become the best version of myself. I recently heard that someone talk about trying not so hard to be the best version of themselves, but the favorite version of themselves, and I really liked that, so I've been kind of
Oh,
reframing.
interesting.
Yeah, isn't that beautiful? Like,
Yeah.
sometimes when we put so much emphasis on being the best version of ourselves, there's so much pressure and self-criticism and perfectionism that comes into play, but the favorite version of myself, the most maximized version of myself, you know? Anyway, so I'm obsessed with growth, but I also, really believe that so much of our big growth moments happen not just in our personal life or just in our professional life, but actually where these two roads kind of intersect. And so I would love to hear a story from you. And especially sorry, I'm saying too much, but it's so special to be in the space with I mean, Lauren and I used to sing together, and so I was
Yes.
thinking about this. I was thinking about how intimate of a f of there's a different kind of layer of friendship. Like, it's one thing to just be friends with someone. It's
Mhm.
another thing to sing with someone and make music with someone. There's a type of intimacy and trust that you develop that's kind of I don't know, it's spiritual, emotional, it's different,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah.
don't you think the friends that you sing with, that you have or have some with, are somewhat different than the friends you haven't?
Very much so. I think you hit it on the head when you said it's a spiritual connection. There is such a trust. There's a trust. It's literally a, "Hey, if I fall, will you catch me?" It's like, "Yeah, absolutely." And there's such a
Yeah,
connection there. I think it bonds people because I can think of people, that I even sang with in elementary school, junior high, high school, and there's just still that connection there. It's like, cool, we made that emotion, we made that spiritual, we made that connection thing happen, and
yeah,
it's such an invisible thread.
yeah, I totally agree. So that makes this extra special to me. So
Yeah.
anyways, let me get out of the way, and I'd love to hear it. Tell me about a story about a time when something in your personal life impacted your professional life or vice versa, and tell me how you grew from it.
I would be honored to. The story that comes up for me is there is a mentor I have in my life who I very much respect. And he came into my life as a director. I was doing a musical theater show at the time, Rent the Musical by Jonathan Larson. And it was my first time doing this musical. I'd been blessed to do it twice so far. And the very first time I was doing it, I was so uncomfortable because I felt the weight of portraying not only this character, but bringing this story to life. And for those of you who aren't familiar, Rent is set in the late 80s, early 90s, and it's a musical about a group of friends that are all trying to balance poverty and the AIDS crisis, which is literally taking their entire community one person at a time. And
Mhm.
they're trying, the AIDS is brand new. They don't know what it is. It was still called this gay disease, the gay cancer, I
Mhm.
believe it was, and they're all scared, but they're all trying to push forward. And they're in New York and they're artists and they're world changers, but they're just trying to navigate this crazy story, this crazy season, this crazy storm in their
Mhm.
worlds. And I felt a lot of pressure do it justice because um, the show in itself is so iconic, and I never take for granted any time I get to do a performance opportunity. But I also felt a lot of personal pressure just because I had an uncle who was an educator who ended up passing from AIDS related complications. And that
Mm,
was something that for me made the whole situation really, really personal. And I wanted to honor him.
yeah.
But I also wanted to just honor this entire, this entire, what's the best word? This entire group of individuals that lived through this and had suffered through this, because I can empathize with being in this space where my character's name was Collins, where he finds the love of his life, and they both discover very quickly. This character's name is Angel. They both discover that they both have AIDS, and it always broke my heart that Collins has to watch. Oh, spoiler alert! If you haven't seen it, although you've had the better part of 2 decades to watch it.
That's
Um,
right.
Collins, Collins has to stand by helplessly and watch. He finally finds the love of his life. And then
Mm,
he has to watch this person wither away and pass away, which is already heartbreaking, but also knowing he has the same disease that could potentially take him out the exact same way at any given moment. So he's
yeah.
this educator, he's this smart dude, and he wants to really show people knowledge and choices and freedom and stepping away from what mainstream says folks should do. And um, he just feels so frustrated, but also determined. So there was a lot of that going on. So I'm thinking of all of those things. Also at the time, my dad had just passed, maybe a year and a
No.
half before. So I was doing this show where I was playing a gay character, and as a pastor's son, my dad was a pastor. Ah, boom.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and that was such a hard situation for me because I was like, yo, what am I walking into? I don't know if I can handle this. And I was so
Mm,
frustrated one day in the middle of a rehearsal for this show. And my mentor, his name is Ron Kellum, beautiful human being, still working, still incredible. He walked up to me in the middle of rehearsal. I was weeping uncontrollably because I couldn't wrap my head around this and I didn't know how to make it come to life. And I felt so much pressure. I felt so uncomfortable. And he grabbed my face with both of his hands and he said, God does not make mistakes with his creation. That
mm,
was all he said, and he just went back to his director's seat, and that
mm,
moment for me changed so much. There was such a freedom that said, "Hey, you don't have to fight to be
mm.
anything or anyone else. Just who you are is more than enough in this moment." And across the board, as I've come to find out
Yeah.
since then too. So that has been a life-changing moment that absolutely changed the way I um, approach the art that I continue to create, but it's
Mm,
definitely affected the way I choose to show up in this world, period.
mm.
Um, and it started there, and I've gotten to thank
Yeah.
Ron, a couple of times privately and publicly. So I'm really grateful that he did that and he took it upon himself to just look at me and go, I got you. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. Just breathe. Who you are is enough.
Wow.
Keep going. And that was
Wow.
an absolutely changing moment of many, but that's the one that keeps coming up to share in this space. And I'm so
Yeah.
grateful to be able to do it.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for sharing it. It's funny because we've been friends for so long, and I vaguely remember this.
Mhm.
I certainly remember when you were doing this show. I absolutely remember when your dad passed. It was such a strange time because you were so young. We were so young.
Yes.
It was, you know what I mean? Like our
Yeah,
brains weren't fully formed yet. And I think
absolutely.
right. I'm always like, our
Yeah.
brains weren't fully formed with, and I think about you being on that stage with probably a not fully formed brain, with having lost your dad, with with coming working to come into who you are,
Mhm. Yeah.
but not knowing how to do that, and to have
Yeah.
someone see you, to have someone just see you, and to I love that he physically took your face in his hand because right?
Yes.
Right? It's more than just like, "Hey, lo, I see you." It's
Yeah.
like, "No, this is a moment. I need
Yeah.
you to feel this with your whole body right now, that God makes no mistakes. I need you to feel that
Yeah.
off your head to the soles of your feet." You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I think, this is such a so there who knows who's gonna be listening in, but, like,
Yeah.
when you tell this story, you're at work, right?
Mhm.
This was work, and that's
Yeah.
important for people to recognize. This moment happened at work, even though a lot of people are like, "Oh, it's a show. That feels like a different category."
Yeah.
No, you're a professional, you're at
Yeah.
work, and your
Mhm.
director sees you and takes
Mhm.
that moment to help set you free. And that is something that
Yeah.
you can do whether you're in the corporate world, or whether you're in the arts and music, and like, to see your people and to make space for them is so powerful. How
Abs
have you
absolutely.
how has that, I'm sure this has impacted many different parts of your life moving forward, but when you are when you are directing, because you, my friend, are also constantly directing music and variety
Mhm.
from, you know, backup vocals, recording, like, how do you work with people now? Because I have to say, you really see people. You're one of my friends that is constantly checking in on me, and I know I'm not alone. I'm not special, because you're always seeing people. How has how did that change the way that you also interact with people and colleagues and friends?
Great question. You are special. Also, the answer to that
Thank you.
question is the answer to that question is, I think it's just one of those things that has sometimes I wonder if it's nature, or if it's nurture. Maybe it's
Mhm.
both. Because I can remember being in elementary school and being the kid that said, "Hey, if I was playing with my friends and I saw one person that was just kind of by themselves, I would always go, 'Yo, let's stop. Let's go get them. Let's go. Yo, come play.'" And that was always my
Mhm.
thing. But even now as an adult, I am so very crystal clear that all we as humans want is to be seen and to be heard and to know that we
Yeah.
matter. And so much of the art I create comes from that place. And so much of the way I try to show up in relationships, is a reflection of that as best as I can, as best as I can be. But yeah, I've always just kind of had this awareness, but also sensitivity to whatever space I'm in to try to be
Mhm.
intentional about connecting. And especially when it comes to the musical space, to directly answer your question, I try to be intentional about a lot of direct eye contact, a lot of making sure folks know this is a safe space. If you have a question, I don't believe in dumb questions. I would prefer to over
Mhm.
communicate and not under communicate. And whatever it is that's on your heart, I will try to set you up to win. So if you have anything that you need, holler at me. But I really try to start with the people first, with taking care of the human needs first. So that way we can get the
Yeah.
work stuff done. And especially in a lot of corporate situations, and I've been in a lot of corporate artistic situations, there's a lot of people that try to run art situation like it's a corporation. And it's like, no, you can't.
Mhm.
Your people aren't machines, and people don't just, they're not on a factory assembly line. They're people with
Mhm.
needs and different values and mindsets and different
Yeah.
experiences that have shaped the way they show up in the world and have shaped the way they view the world. So I really try to
Yeah.
do a lot of listening and being sensitive to whatever's in front of me as the most
Mhm.
important thing, and start with the humanity part of it first. Is everybody okay? How are we feeling? Are there any questions? Are there concerns? Is there anything that you would like to say? Or my other favorite question, is there anything that you probably should say that you don't want to?
Mhm.
Because
Yeah.
even there,
Let
it's probably
let's
something,
get it all out. Yep. Yes.
and we've been there and we've experienced that on both sides of the table. But yeah,
Yeah. It's as you're talking, and I didn't really expect to go down this road with you, but it is interesting because working in corporate America, first of all, corporate America has changed a lot, and I have a bone to pick that I'm going to go on a little bit of a tangent. I don't really love to. I try hard not to use the word employees, even though there's nothing inherently wrong with that word. But I find it to be really transactional. And in corporate America these days, as the our way of working has shifted, employees are really creators, co-creators, partners in the work. They're not, it's not just, I mean, there are definitely, different types of industries, but
mhm,
let's just talk about, where we're at in kind of the corporate world. There's a lot of co-creating and dare I say, a lot of artistry that goes
mhm,
into work.
yeah,
And there's as you're talking and give keynotes on innovation and a lot of my culture work is around helping organizations to actually do the transformation that they need to become innovative. And so much of that kind of has to do not with what you're saying, certainly from the people first standpoint, but also from the recognizing that to be creative, to be an artist, to be incredible at your craft, you can't have a transactional relationship with your people. You have to have an an compassionate and caring relationship where you see your people, you see them, you see their strength, you see their opportunities, you care deeply for them,
mhm,
not because you want them to complete a task, but because you want them to live into their most creative, most artistic self. You can't go on stage and sing when people are just pissed off. The
yeah.
sound's not going to be right. I mean, depending on the song, depending on the song. Like, right? But like when you're thinking of like blending voices, like the spirit that you go into that work with, you have to feel like you have one another's back and you care about one another, Like
Yeah,
it just makes it that much better, that much more that the ooey gooiness. We can see it and hear it and feel it so much more as the
yeah.
audience can, but I don't think we translate this into the corporate world. So I think that's actually
Mm.
pretty powerful.
Yeah, and I think it's that Iyanla Van Zant quote that I love, and I use it a lot in the different spaces that I work. It's the fish stinks from the neck down. It starts with whoever is at the top because it will
Yeah.
always trickle down. It will always trickle down to the people that are underneath, and everything from communication to what is communicated and how it is communicated, where it is communicated, like all of that stuff makes a difference. And I think this is just my opinion. This is only about me. This is nobody else. Don't at me. But I feel like the most effective people are the people that really, really take care of the humanity of the people they're working with. Like, you can
Yeah.
see, even my industry is the arts and music and stuff. So I like to look at certain artists that have been in the game for a while. You can see how many people, and this again, this doesn't apply to everybody, but some artists, they keep band members, they keep singers for years, years. And I noticed that because I know that's
Mm,
generally a good sign of they
mhm.
treat it well, they love working there and that sort of thing. So, yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting, but yeah, it's as leaders, as people at the top of whatever the chain is, if you're the boss, if you're the captain, you're the jefe, whatever that
Mhm,
is, let's just
mhm, mhm.
remember to take care of the humanity of people because I've seen it and I've said it and I've tried to live it. If you treat people right that are coming in underneath you for whatever it is job they're doing, you take care of them. they will do excellent work and you
Yeah.
all look better at the end. You all
Yeah.
shine because
Yeah.
everybody's getting taken care of. And I've been at those work situations where they're like, "Hey, we know we've been treating you like garbage, but we need you to work a couple of extra hours later today, but it actually is your choice because we can't make you do it." And I've seen people go,
Mm.
"Absolutely not. Are you high? Absolutely not." And then I've seen other situations where the same thing happens, and because they've been treated so well, it's like, "You need me to stay and make a couple of hours? Cool. Let me make a call. I'm here. I got you. Let's
Yeah.
go."
Yeah.
And it makes a
Yeah.
difference.
Yeah. It really does. I'm still like kind of stuck on this. Like, it's funny when your worlds collide, right? Because obviously I used to sing and I know that world as well. And I've done this big, career shifting, all these shifts throughout my life. But it, and this is part of the reason why I wanted to talk to you, because I feel like there is, in some ways, in this podcast, representation from all of these chapters of my life. And I think being in the music industry, there are so many challenges to being in the music industry. But at the end of the day, it's its fundamental purpose, I think, is to cultivate beauty in this world, to
Most,
help us to
most.
feel something, right? To help us to be united
Mhm.
by sound and rhythm, and to be united by this invisible thing that is undeniable in its ability to, again, bring us together and bring us joy and show us how good beauty can feel. And so often we compartmentalize, let's say, corporate world from entertainment music industry, and we think of one as art and the other as not art. And I think part of what makes life worth it is each of us looking for the way that we step into the artist, and each of us looking for how we bring beauty into the world. And
Yeah.
that shows up in all these different ways,
Mhm.
or there's all these different ways to get there. But one of the things that is coming through for me from the story that you told is that it almost always starts with beauty, almost always comes from first being witnessed, first being seen, right? Which
Yeah,
is your story.
well said.
You were right? You were seen,
Yeah. Yeah,
and
yeah.
you were seen in a moment where you needed to be, like, healed and liberated from things that were in you in order for you to do something beautiful, in order for
Yeah.
you to show up on that stage and touch other people, like, it's so clear to me this is how culture works. Like, well,
Mhm.
I didn't even intend for this to be about culture, but it through what you're saying, it's so clear to me that that's how it works. Anyways,
Agreed.
that's
Agreed,
that's
agreed. And even speaking on that, I love what you said about being seen. Like, for anybody that hasn't gotten the privilege to know me, in general, I am a 6'4" giant human being with ridiculously
uh,
long limbs and a
and
loud
you
voice.
give the best hugs because it's like, I'm just swallowed up. Oh, it's the best. Is the best. And then you chop my head. You
That's
haven't done
true.
that in a while. You used
That
to
is
chop my
true.
head.
I used to do when I was in college, I did a lot of love chops. They were just
Love
karate chops
chop.
to the neck,
Totally.
to the face, to the nose, to the heart. Chop to the heart. So I always made sure that somebody got a chop in there. But the whole purpose of like I was always this visible dude. My dad was a pastor. I started singing when I was 3. And also something else I have in common with Cheria was just like starting singing so early, and that immediately kind of puts you in a separate category. And then also in
Mhm.
a lot of the spaces I was in, we were very few minorities. It was very 2 or 3 chocolate drops. in the
Mhm.
in there. So I was already this person that I felt very viewed, but I didn't feel
Mhm.
seen. And,
Oh,
I am so grateful for that moment because it was cool to be like, "No, no, you got this, you're okay." And I was so concerned, my dad was a pastor, I was gonna play this gay character, I was gonna literally be gay for the first time in public, and I
yeah.
was scared out of my mind, and even still, some of the people in my life, I had some people that came and saw that show, and they were very much like,
Mm.
oh, I remember on the same show one lady walked up to me, an old family friend. She walked up to me, she gave me the biggest hug, and she said, "Lauren, your father is so proud of you right now." And that felt
Mm.
so good. And then she left, and another old family friend came up and she said, "Your father is rolling around in his grave right now."
Wow.
Same
Wow.
performance, two different people. So all the
Wow.
reasons to know yourself, to love yourself, whoever you are, and I use myself as an example all the time. I can get away with a lot of stuff just because I am already weird and this unique being. And you can see I've got a Beetlejuice shirt happening. There's long hair.
I
There's
love
64 teeth. You're welcome.
you do have a
So
set
many
of teeth
teeth.
on
There's
you.
so many teeth.
That's
I had
beautiful.
braces twice. It's not genetics. So it's this whole thing. I recognize that, I've always been this guy that doesn't fit in the box, even as a vocalist. I had a lot of people that were like,
Mm.
yo, you should just be singing get jazz. You should just sing gospel. You should just,
Mm.
et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But it was like, let me figure out who I am and what I want to do with the time, whatever time I'm blessed to have. And that was yeah, I'm so grateful for that moment because that reverberates in my head all the time. God makes no mistakes. You
Yeah.
are born nobody of we know the only thing we have in common as people is the amount of time, is time. We all get 24 hours a day. Everything
Mm.
else is different based on our circumstances and our
Mm.
experiences, et cetera, but we get to choose what we do with that time. So please, and I'm not saying run buck wild and do whatever you want, but I am saying please breathe into the fullness of whoever it is you are and whatever it is you were put on this earth to be. And to my people, I talk to people that are in my circle that say, "Hey, I still don't know what it is I want to do. I still don't know who I'm supposed to be." That's okay. Please
Yes.
relieve yourself of the pressure that this needs to happen by happy hour. Just
Yes. Yeah.
know, keep trying, keep breathing, keep being open to whatever that is. For me, a lot of answers come in silence and stillness, and I have to get silence and let whatever is underneath the surface kind of bubble up to the surface. So, whatever it is, I am with you. I'm on your side. And I hope that
Mm.
you know that there is time and
Yeah.
keep shining no matter what. Keep
Yeah.
shining. Be your favoriteest version,
Your
not the
favorite
best.
version.
Your
Not it
favorite.
doesn't the bet yeah, your favorite version. I really gotta find the person who said that. It was my therapist who told me about the podcast. I gotta give that person credit. Um, and I love that you just said the bit about shining. It's so funny because I was just talking to this wonderful wise woman who I pay to talk to me every 2 weeks, who I love so much, and I was Googling before this podcast, and that was something she was telling me. She was like, it's time for you to let yourself shine," and I'm like, "Oh god, yeah," that it's a message that so many of us need, and to your point, what you said, I thought was so powerful. You were viewed but not seen. And there are so many people who are viewed but not seen. And all those people deserve to shine, deserve to shine into
Mhm.
all that they are, everything that they are. And it feels like already a theme that's coming up in my conversations with people for this podcast
Yeah.
is is just being who you are.
Mhm.
Okay. I could talk to you forever. Uh, I feel like there's so much more. I just feel like I could talk to you forever. But I think, is there anything you want to talk about before we get into our rapid fire questions? Like, is there
Ooh,
anything that's on your mind that you would just love to take a moment to share?
I would love to, just to I'm losing the word right now. I was going to say, I'd really like to evaporate on what it is I just said. That's not the word at all. That's not the word at all. I just wanted to add this. In order for us to go from being viewed to being seen does take some vulnerability on our part
Mhm.
because you have to be willing to be honest and be truthful and even ask for what you want in some situations. Ask for what you need. I
Yeah.
am somebody that I've had a lot of failed, no, I shouldn't say a lot, but a significant enough number of relationships that failed, romantic and non, because I was waiting on somebody to rescue me. I was waiting on someone
Mm.
to suss out what my needs were, to see that I was hurting and to come by and
Mm.
rescue. And life did not change and has not changed until I am constantly on myself to ask for what you need. It's
Mm.
okay to talk about, hey, even yesterday, to be all the way honest, yesterday I had an event that I needed to attend that I was feeling very, very, very anxious about because there were some triggers there. And I woke up and I texted a friend of mine and I was just like, I always start every conversation with, hey, how are you? Because I think it's important to check and make sure somebody has time and space before you just dump on them,
Yeah.
whatever is going on. And my dude was like, it's all good. I'm doing great today. I was like, great. I'm really struggling with some anxiety today because of this event I need to go to tonight. So if you could keep me in your thoughts and send me some good energy or words of wisdom or whatever, I would really appreciate it. And he immediately called me and was like, this is weird for you. Like, you don't ever usually just come out and say, I was like, I'm trying to do new stuff. I'm trying to
Oh,
ask for what I need. But the fact that I was able to say that and he was able to go, I got you. How can I support you
yeah.
in this tonight so that you feel supported and you feel like you are not alone and just to go there really made a difference for me. So I can share that with
Yeah.
anybody. I know how much we all want to be seen, but in the spaces that you know in your gut, in your soul, in your heart that they are safe, in those
Mm.
spaces where you know, hey, I can trust this person, I can trust this situation. Um, dare to be honest.
Mm.
Dare to be courageous enough to ask what it is that you need. Get your needs met first. That's something my therapist says to me all the time. He always says,
Yeah.
L, are you getting your needs met first? You know, I think probably not, but
I think
I wanted to make sure.
I think what you just said is so powerful. I think I've said that already twice in again. But that is so powerful because I think a lot of times because we have great people in our lives, we assume we're supported. But oftentimes we don't actually let people support us by
Mhm,
telling them that we need their support. And so we've got all these like placeholders of relationships who are all
mhm,
there, who love you, who are ready to
mhm.
support you through the good and the bad. But we start going through the bad and we like hold our breath and we just know like,
Yeah,
okay, absolutely have to call on this person. I will, but we don't, like we just
yeah.
like,
In case of
I
emergency.
still, in case of emergency, right? Like we can't be, that is the perfect way to say this. We can't be having our safe relationships in our lives be in case of emergency relationships.
Mhm.
We need to engage in them because we would expect the same thing of them. We want them to come to us and say, "Hey, I need to be seen for this right now. Like, here's what's going on." Right?
Absolutely, absolutely. This is coming back to something a dear friend of mine, we had a conversation and she shared with me. She said, I really finally realized that the way people want to be loved is the way that they love. So if you're
Mm.
trying to figure
Mm.
out how someone wants to be loved, think of how they show up in this relationship or on whatever relationship. That is probably what they would love in return. But I know for me, and I this is for whoever it is, I'll throw it for whoever catches it. I'm one of those people that because I tend to be very independent and I kind of take care of things on my own and I handle things on my own. I'm an introverted extrovert, so I need a lot of time alone in order to show up in people, which is a
Yeah,
verb
same.
to people. Well, but I know that it's something that wait, I lost my train of thought and it's coming right back. In 3, in 2, what was I talking about?
Well,
I
your friend
literally
said
started to make a
th
point. Oh, there it
no,
is.
y
Thank you.
yep, there it is.
Yeah.
This is why I love
Well,
you
never
so
mind.
much.
I'm sorry, everybody. Thanks for hanging in. I appreciate your patience. I definitely realize that now that I know for a fact that the way because I can be seen as an independent person, sometimes it takes a while before, um, not even sometimes, in most cases, people are just like, "Hey, I just thought you had it on your own. I didn't want to bother you.
Mhm,
I didn't want to come near you. I just want to make sure you were good." And I was like,
mhm,
"Okay, I appreciate that, but now I know that was the lesson for me. I need to ask if that's what I need, if I need support, if I need a safe space, even if it's I have even friends that's like, "Hey, let's all just hang out." One of my love languages is, quality time and physical touch. So it's just like,
mhm.
"Hey, I just need a hug. Are you near? Are you in my
Listen,
neighborhood? Can I just run out and hug you for a few seconds and I'm
eh,
good?" And even
yes,
that is there's that part of my brain, the ego part, that part that feels like my personal power is being threatened. That's like, "You're weak. You should be able to stay."
mm,
Especially society does this to men all of the time. And I'm seeing
mm,
how absolutely there's a reason it's called toxic masculinity. But
mhm,
I
mm,
truly believe and I've seen how much that is killing people's spirit because they are, especially as men, we're taught to shut up, not emote, and just pay for
mm,
everything. And it's like,
mm, mm,
there's more to
mm.
life. You angry, you
So
upset,
much
you're
more.
hurt. There's more, and
Yeah.
you gotta acknowledge that. And sorry, we're tangenting off of tangenting in the middle of
No,
tangents.
but listen, that's what this is all about. That's what this is all about, and yeah, I think well, what one while you're talking, I was thinking about the fact that we need something like 8 hugs a day for maintenance, just for
Woo!
maintenance,
Roy Dunlap.
and
I'm shouting your name out. Roy Dunlap is a friend of mine. I sing in a touring traveling band. I won't mention names, but if you know me, you know who this is. And my pianist Roy, I we talk about this all of the time because I hug a lot of people, especially when I'm in a workspace. Wherever I work,
yeah,
I try to learn everybody's name, and I hug the majority of people at the beginning of every day. Hey, how you doing? Hey, how you doing? And that is always our joke. We always see each other and go, "Yo, you got your 8 hugs? It's
that's
5 o'clock.
right.
Have you got all 8? Have you got all 8 today?"
Low, that is real. I can
Mhm.
go weeks without getting a hug. It is sad. I'm gonna have to start, like, walking up and down Golden Gate Park just, like, with one of those "want a hug" sign. Could get a little
Okay,
weird,
but
but you know what?
yeah, I was like, "I'm gonna need you to have a bodyguard." 'Cause
Well, the really sad but also wonderful thing is I go out to Golden Gate Park every day to get my hugs from the redwood trees. I
I'm not mad at
Listen,
that.
I'm all about hugging trees, but the fact that I have to hug them because I can't hug other I don't get my human hug interaction. This is all bad. This is all bad, but okay.
Well, I
Listen,
think it's a step in the right direction, and I
it
think
is this
it still counts. I
thank
didn't know
you.
where that sentence was going. You were like, "I like to go to the public park." And I was like, "Where on earth is this story going?"
Oh my god. Okay. Listen, again, could talk to you for hours. I'm so glad you added in that last bit because I think it was so perfect and needed. Why don't we hop into our rapid fire questions?
Let's
Um,
go.
okay, we've got, I think, 8 or 9. We'll see. So fill in the blank. Growth is,
Necessary, unnegotiable, non-deal breaker. Like, it should always be a part of our human experience.
yeah. Yeah, couldn't agree more. Um, what was the very first thing you realized you were good at as a child? Very first thing you realized you were good at?
I would say it was probably I wanna say singing. I come from a very large family of singers, though, and, I didn't think I was great because I always thought they were extraordinary,
Yeah.
but I thought I was a decent singer. I think when I think even more about that, I would say I think I had a good ear. Um,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I always could hear I remember listening to my dad's albums in the living room, and I could hear what every part was doing and talking to my mom about it, and she was like, "How do you hear that? I don't hear that." And then I
Uh,
thought something was wrong. I was like, "I do. You don't hear that?"
like, do you see dead people? It's like, I hear you don't hear
Yes. Because it was always there. It was always there. I could always
Yeah.
hear, here's what every single part is doing. And that's when it was three part. Once it got into that take six, Jacob Collier, one
Mm.
chorus, a free note on the piano, that's a deal breaker. I don't have time for that. It's still there.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Okay. What was your first job?
First job, I was a radiologist transporter at a hospital. Well,
Okay.
that was after I became a music director at my church, age 13.
Yeah, you were a prodigy. Like, I don't think I haven't, like, said that. I probably will say that, in the intro, but let's just I mean, I remember when I first met you at school and the rumors had already spread, like, he is like a savant, like, he like, playing the piano, you would be in there, like, I mean, yeah, you were amazing. Even the professor seemed to be a little intimidated by you. Uh, I won't
That
name
is
names.
true. Right. That is
I won't
true.
name names.
That was
Ok
uncomfortable.
mhm. Okay, what is something that you're trying to learn right now?
Ooh, I've finally gotten a handle on loving myself. I'm still
Mm,
actively learning to like myself.
mm, that's powerful. There that word goes again. What is
Mhm.
something that you're trying to unlearn?
Oh man, I'm almost ashamed at how many things come to my mind at this moment. Um, I think the biggest thing, if I could put them all underneath an umbrella, I think I'm trying to unlearn that being dishonest is loving.
Hmm,
Growing up in a Christian household, there was a lot of things that we could say. Well, let me find a better way to phrase this. I grew up believing that in order for me to be kind to people, I had to either stretch the truth or not say the truth
mm,
because I didn't want to hurt people's feelings. But now I know
mm,
that being kind is being honest. That's the truth. Because if
mm,
not, your life turns into this unending episode of Saved by the Bell where everybody's
mm,
running around in all this delulu because you have spun this web of half truths, untruths, et cetera, et cetera. But now I'm really working to unlearn that. In order for me to be
mm.
kind to somebody, I have to lie.
That's so interesting. Fascinating and makes a lot of sense for yeah, makes a lot of sense. Tell me a book or a movie that changed your life.
Um, Two Girls, One Cup was I'm just kidding. Like, that was literally just because.
Oh, goodness.
Let's see.
So much.
And thank you so much for staying with me. For everybody that's not watching this interview, Sharia didn't move her face. She was really trying to be like, I'm with you, but where is this going? That's why everybody should go out and get a Sharia. It's
Oh my
almost
god.
permanent. They're available on Amazon Prime. A book or movie that has changed my life. Oh my goodness, this is a great question. Is it weird? You guys can see my bookshelf. I'm turning around to look at it right now.
No,
Bu- 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 I really have to think about that. A book or a movie that's changed my life. I think
this
a
can
movie
also
might
be
be easier.
okay. Or because you're of the music world, I would take a song as well or album.
Ooh. Oh. Uh, this is great. This is a hard one for me. I think in life I don't have any favorites of like I don't have a favorite food, I don't have a favorite film or song or book or
Mhm.
anything like that. But um this is such a great question. The answer isn't coming to me in this moment. I'm so sorry
I
to
mean,
say.
listen, that's okay. This can be a to be determined. This as
Yes.
let's
The
let's
next time
let's
I
go on.
come back to this podcast, I will
That's
have
right.
an answer to that question.
That's right. Um, when growth feels good, how do you celebrate?
Body shots. When growth feels good, I think
Mhm.
I'm intentional about laughing. I'm intentional about smiling a bunch. Repeat the question one more time. Let me make sure I heard it correctly.
Growth feels good. How do you celebrate?
When
When
growth
you've
feels good,
accomplished like you
yeah.
just had a big growth moment. How do you
Mhm.
celebrate?
I think I try to slow down to breathe it in. I'm very, very intentional about sitting with whatever my feelings were. Like this past weekend, Thursday night, I did a listening party for the new album. Friday, the album came out. So I slept all day 'cause I was like, oh, my body was so exhausted to finally have it out.
Yeah.
And then even on Saturday, I had a bunch of work and promo stuff I needed to do. But what I did was I went to the gym and then I came home and I just sat. I sat with my feelings and I said, breathe in the fact that this album is out. All of this work, all of this planning, paperwork, writing music, rewriting music, recording it, re recording it, listening to mixes, changing mixes, rearranging, all of that stuff is done. So let's breathe that in. So I think that short answer long is I try to acknowledge it. I really try to be intentional about breathing it in and just sitting in the moment of, this is done.
Yeah.
Even tomorrow, I called a really great friend of mine. I said, hey, I would like to have an F it day. I'll say that because
Mhm.
I'm mindful of
Mhm.
the children. I said, I want a day where we just hang out and celebrate the fact that the album is out and he's
Yeah.
actually going through a bunch of different changes with his job. So I said, let's celebrate what's going on with your job. Let's celebrate that my album is out. Let's just have a day where we are intentional about breathing in that gratitude, however we choose to spend the day, going to the
Yeah.
beach or whatever it is we do. Let's just be intentional about breathing that in because I keep noticing how quickly life goes by. And if you don't stop to just breathe those moments in and acknowledge them, it's so
Yeah.
quickly the way those moments become memories, which is a lyric
Yes.
from a song on my project called Love Against the Clock by Loren Smith, available where all music is sold. That song is called
Perfect.
"Be Here Now." So, but that is why we
Oh,
wrote the song,
yeah.
and that's the whole bridge. It's just those moments become memories really fast, and I think
Yeah.
about I lost my dad when I was 24, and I was so
Mhm.
upset because I was so young and he was gone, and I was sitting with my therapist and I was crying, and she said to me, "I get it. But talk to me about what's coming up for you right now." And I said, "I'm so upset that at the age of 24, I lost my dad." And I will
Mhm.
never forget when she said to me, did you show gratitude? Did you thank God for the 24 years you had with him? And in that moment, I went, no, actually,
Mm.
I didn't. Sorry, you guys didn't see my computer almost fell over. That's looked like I looked like I was punching a child. So sorry for that. But yeah,
Oh, this
that's
is
one of
so
those
fun.
things. I'm sorry for
Wow.
everybody who's just listening to this and they're like, what is going on up there?
That's
But
okay. They'll
yeah,
roll with it.
I'm doing a
Yeah.
terrible job with rapid answers for the rapid
Well, that's
question.
okay because I'm enjoying every moment of it. It's really good. It's really good.
There's
Okay.
nothing rapid about my answers at all. Sorry,
But
fam.
they're beautiful. Um, so when growth feels hard, the opposite of that question,
Ooh,
when growth feels hard, how do you take care of yourself?
self care, a lot of self care. That's spending time in my safe spaces. That's going to the gym and just moving my body and sweating. That's sitting in that. I'm even intentional with sitting in the bad feelings because I still believe that in order for us, we can't heal something unless we feel it and then we can deal it and then we can heal it. But you have to
Yeah.
acknowledge that it's there or it won't go away. So, yeah, when growth feels hard, I try to acknowledge it. And I'm always asking myself, what is this supposed to teach me right now? What am I supposed to learn? Even with that event yesterday that I was going to and I had all this anxiety about, I was pacing around my living room and I said out loud, what am I to learn from this? What would you
Mm.
have me to learn from this? Uh, uh,
It's interesting. Now I'm making the rapid fire questions, not rapid fire. But
welcome.
but you just for both of those answers said acknowledge it. That the way you celebrate is to acknowledge it and be present with it. And the way that you take care of yourself is to acknowledge what's going on and to
Mhm.
be present with yourself. And all of
That's
that
what I should have
too.
seen. It's not been a lot shorter. I should admit that.
Well, no. And to me, it goes back to the theme of this conversation is you actually make space to see yourself, to not just be
Yeah.
viewed, but to be seen. Right. I
Yeah.
think that's really,
Wonderful
really amazing.
awareness. Thanks, Shay.
Yeah.
Wonderful awareness. I appreciate
Yeah.
that.
You got it anytime. Okay, we're on the last question. So, when you grow all the way up and you
Mhm,
leave this life,
mhm.
what will you congratulate yourself on?
Leaving the world better than I found it, showing
Mm.
people that it's okay to be vulnerable and it's all right to love each other and themselves better. And I hope I create a catalog of music that lives long after I die.
Yes, I mean, you will and you already have, which is incredible. And
Famous.
again, Love Against the Clock, go check it out.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Um, you know, I I'm so grateful that you showed up and you said yes to have this conversation and I just you always come in to a room with your 6-foot self and say, "Beautiful people,"
Mhm.
and you you are one of the most beautiful people I know, and I am always inspired by you. I'm getting choked up because as much as it's been a journey to live into who you have always been one of a kind, and it inspires me to live into who I am, and while I've even been on this music recovery journey, which again is a story for another time for people who are listening. Um, I constantly look at you with appreciation that you're in my life as a model of someone who has been always working to own their truth and to share their talent with the world and to do that unapologetically. And so it's an honor to share space with you in this life. And I'm just so grateful. So, yeah.
Thank you for appreciate you. And game recognizes game because you are absolutely a light in this world. And on
Oh my
top of
God.
being incredibly smart, incredibly multifaceted, this lady here has all of the talents, all of the skills, and she doesn't age to be superficial. This is what she looked like when I met her in 83. This is exactly what she looked like.
Oh my
Cheria,
God.
it
I
is
love
such a
you.
pleasure to know you.
I
It is
love you
such a
peaches.
pleasure to be in this world life journey with you. And I am so
Oh my
excited
gosh.
for this chapter of your story. And I'm going to put this in this podcast in hopes that we all, as her community, hold her accountable to this. Sharia's journey of healing from music, through music, with music, from that whole thing,
Mm.
that is such an incredible story. that I hope at some
Mm.
point you are all blessed to hear.
Oh, thanks, Lauren. Thank you. Well, love you to pieces.
Love
And
you.
until next time, bye, everybody.
Take care, everybody. Thanks for having me.